This week, Vice President J.D. Vance stunned leaders in Europe, questioning whether their values warranted defense by the United States.
We saw the President of the United States aligning himself with the dictator of Russia, Vladimir Putin.
You should have never started it. You could have made a deal.
Alright guys, so what can I say? As an anti-Putin Russian who left his own country, in the light of everything that is currently going on with Trump's possible peace plan for Russia and Ukraine and how Russia is currently in talks with America, you know, the only thing that I can really say in this situation is...
You can't keep getting away with it!
Yes, exactly, because it looks like right now the Trump administration has dropped the ball so hard on these peace talks that Russia is pretty much gonna kind of get away unscathed and Ukraine is pretty much getting the worst end of the deal possible. So hey there people, it is your boy Roman, your favorite neighborhood Russian. How you guys doing today? Welcome to a brand new video, and in today's video we're going to discuss whether Vladimir Putin and Russia is really going to get away with it, and if Russia and America are suddenly about to become friends again. We'll discuss that, we'll discuss how even possibly some restrictions and sanctions on Russia might be lifted, and we're also going to be talking about if leaving Russia was possibly a big mistake, because, well, Russians apparently think that now McDonald's, Zara and everybody is going to be coming back, and things are essentially going to be continuing business as usual, as if Russia never started the war. And I don't really think so, right? However, it is a very interesting question nonetheless. So, is Russia really going to get away with everything that they've done? And did I make a terrible mistake by leaving my home country? Alright, so if you guys are keeping up with the news, I'm not gonna retell everything that has happened recently. If you're keeping up with the news, you probably already heard most of this insane shit. Recently, two incredible leaders of the free world met up. One of them, a guy who wanted to take Kiev in 3 days, and the other, a guy who wanted to stop the war in the first 48 hours of his presidency. They met up in Saudi Arabia without Ukraine's involvement, basically to decide Ukraine's fate. Yes, a country that is supposed to be an ally of Ukraine meeting up with its invader without Ukraine, that is completely normal and makes a lot of sense. And in the past week, we heard a bunch of insane details about these possible solutions to the Ukraine-Russia war. Donald Trump apparently wants to get half of Ukraine's natural resources or something as reparations, basically, which is worse actually than the reparations supposedly that were imposed on Germany after the First World War. That makes a lot of sense, asking reparations from a country that has been invaded. Trump has recently said that Ukraine should not have started the war. Oh my god. And supposedly Trump doesn't rule out the possibility of Ukraine giving up territories as part of this peace deal. So long story short, it's basically a total victory for Russia from what it seems like right now. And as an anti-Putin Russian, I'm not happy to admit this in the slightest. But at this point guys, I mean, who is surprised? There's a lot of people in the Trump cabinet that went to talks with Ukraine who are completely insane, like Jack Posobiec, for example, who's just basically an anti-Ukrainian right-wing extremist. J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, gave an insane speech at the Munich Security Conference, essentially saying that Europe has lost its way because they no longer abide by the traditional values that they share with the United States or whatever. I mean, makes a lot of sense because Russia and the United States right now, you know, they do coincide in their traditional values, right? Like recently Trump passed an executive order that there's only 2 genders. So Russia can't even say that they're fighting against like Western gender ideology anymore and Western degeneracy. Now America and Russia are on the same side. This meme right here, where America defends Russia from Ukraine, has become a reality. And look, I know that there's a lot of Americans right now who obviously don't approve of this, who are freaking out that Trump is meeting up with Putin, you know. However, honestly guys, at this point I'm not really that surprised, you know. The world order is crumbling, America is being destroyed. You know, I'm not exactly surprised that Trump met up with Putin, to be honest. Yeah, big deal. He met up with a war criminal that is wanted by the International Criminal Court. Very recently, he had no issue meeting up with yet another war criminal wanted by the world, Netanyahu. So you know what I'm saying? If anything, the United States of America is less hypocritical now. Now they just like all war criminals. Before Russian war crimes were bad and Israeli war crimes were good, I guess now all war crimes are good according to the United States. So yes, there will be no justice, no peace, and no cheap eggs, you stupid slut, okay? And once again, it basically looks like all of this is a total win for Vladimir Putin. And honestly, in this moment, I have a ton of empathy and, you know, sadness for the people of Ukraine. Being bargains and having their fate in the hands of these absolutely insane, incompetent idiots. And basically what is happening right now as a result of all of this is that the Russian propaganda, Russian Z media, Z journalists, etc., they're having an absolute blast right now, already kind of celebrating their victory almost. And yes, by the way, I already know there's gonna be 1,000 comments underneath this video from, you know, very big-brained individuals saying, "Oh, aren't you supposed to be anti-war?" Aren't you supposed to be happy because the war is finally going to end? Oh, so you're actually a bloodthirsty maniac. This is essentially something that Ukrainians and sort of pro-Ukrainian people have had to hear for the past 2 weeks. It's a dumbass argument from Z people who essentially pretending to not understand, who just don't understand that even if a peace agreement is going to be signed, how do I put it? Putin's Russia and Vladimir Putin are not exactly the most reliable partners ever. And in fact, you know, the Russian-Ukrainian conflict already had a peace agreement before the Minsk agreements. And guess what? Russia still invaded Ukraine after signing those agreements. And also, the Budapest Memorandum, for example, Russia signed that saying that they recognize the territorial sovereignty of Ukraine, but you know, that was a fucking lie. And also, trusting Vladimir Putin and signing an agreement with him in the year 2025, the big 2025, is crazy. You just know that it's not going to last or age well. But nevertheless, a lot of people are saying this shit now. Ooh, so you're not actually anti-war, you're actually pro-war then. Why am I debunking this? Everybody on the internet is, you know, 5 years old now mentally. But long story short, as a result of all of this, currently, Russian propaganda and Russian Z journalists, Russian Z media, and a lot of just regular people who are kinda Z, they're already almost celebrating a victory, saying that, look, you know, we've been telling Ukrainians all along that the West is going to betray them, and look, now the West has betrayed them. So, Z Goita, Russia is right, has been right all along. Russia's the greatest country. Go, go, go. Russians going forwards. And also, the West said that they want to isolate us and everything. Now, they're crawling back on their knees to talk to us. Just you wait now. They're gonna remove all the sanctions. Visa and MasterCard is gonna come back. McDonald's is gonna come back. Zara and H&M is going to come back. IKEA is gonna come back. Everything is gonna go back to business as usual, except Ukrainians are gonna suffer. Ha ha ha. You know, that's essentially what everybody's saying. And you know, I do think it's a lot of wishful thinking on the part of Z Russians. Also, it is very funny to me how excited these Z people are at the thought of Zara and H&M and McDonald's returning. Even though you've been saying for the past 3 years that you don't need it, and you're actually better off without it, but I guess now you want some Big Macs again. And also, a lot of Russians currently, especially those who kinda hated on the people who left Russia and, you know, betrayed the country, a lot of these people are celebrating this now, gleefully saying, look, all these traitors of Russia who left after the war started, and who denounced Russia and who, you know, left only because they wanted to go to McDonald's and buy stuff at Zara because, you know, they're Western bootleggers or whatever. A lot of these people are having fun now with the idea that, you know, supposedly everything is coming back and Russia is gonna be fine. Here, for example, is a tweet from a Russian streamer. Imagine the faces of all of those who have relocated if they really do come to an agreement. He uses the word dogovornyachok here, which is like it's like a Russian meme, literally means agreement. It's essentially saying that, you know, everything has been planned all along and now the powers that be are finally coming to an agreement. It's all gonna be over, you know, everything was a spectacle, basically. You leave your home country, you lose everything. You practically live in a landfill. You eat in cafes made by other relocated people, and all of that just so that Trump could say, "Dear Zelensky, I'm sorry, but we do need to come to an agreement here." This is not me trying to make fun of you. Just a reminder that everything you have done was in vain. So yeah, classic Soviet mindset, you know, hating the people who left Russia and betrayed the country. It is some kind of insane projection in my opinion. I don't know why he says that people live in landfills. But you know, the idea is pretty clear. Once again, these soy libtards that left Russia, they sacrificed so much, they had it hard, right? They live in landfills or whatever, they live in squalor. They don't have enough money to sustain themselves in these other countries. Everything you soy losers have done was in vain because Putin and Trump are gonna come to an agreement now. And you know, this tweet is pretty much obviously rage bait, but me as a Russian who left at the start of the war because I didn't agree with what was going on, I do think that this is a really interesting topic because, honestly guys, to me right now it feels like the Russian people who left Russia in 2022 after the start of the war with Ukraine, they almost kinda mirror the exodus and the immigration of people that happened after the Russian Revolution of 1917. You see, a lot of the Russian immigrants who left after the Russian Empire was turned into the Soviet Union, many of these people spent a big chunk of their life waiting for the Soviet Union to collapse. A lot of these people, they left in the 1910s, 1920s, right? And for their entire lives, before, during, and after the Second World War, these people were living abroad, but looking at what's going on in the Soviet Union and secretly hoping that sooner or later, the Soviet regime is finally going to fall. A lot of these Russians who left after the revolution thought there's absolutely no way that the system could sustain itself, and you know, in the next 10 years it's definitely surely going to crumble. And guess what? The Soviet Union only crumbled in 1991, and a lot of these people died before that happened. And in a certain way, right, a lot of the people who left Russia right now, who are hoping for an end to the Putin regime, to the propaganda machine that currently exists, to this entire sort of Russian reactionary imperialist mindset, right? A lot of people who left Russia because they hate the government are currently essentially waiting for the government and for the regime to fall so that hopefully, they could come back, for example. And the thing is, right, to me it seems like it probably is not happening. And honestly, I am ready to live in a world where that is not going to happen, and where the Putin regime will stay, and where Putin will continue to be the president for, I don't know, 50 more years, I guess. Because with how these peace talks are going, it looks like, Putin will get away with it. And if that does happen, and if things do go back to business as usual between Russia and the West, then I'm telling you, the Putin regime and the Putin ideology will be here to stay. And it might even continue with other leaders following Putin. It might take a very, very, very long time until something changes. I might be like 70 years old by that time, okay? And here's essentially the point that I'm trying to make in this video. I'm fine with that. I'm not fine with that, of course, in the sense that this is not my perfect, outcome. It's not my dream future. It's not how, I'd like things to turn out to be. But also, I'm fine because I'm still confident in my beliefs, and I think, all things considered, for myself, I've made the right decision, and I did not make a mistake by leaving Russia. And let me explain why. Okay, so let's say Putin gets the perfect outcome for himself, Russia is just doing way too great, everybody's so happy, there's zero issues, and also the propaganda is just working, and everybody in Russia is just like, yes, Putin is based. He was actually correct to start this special military operation and so on, right? That could very much happen, and it's already happened. A lot of people are, more supportive of what is going on at this point, I feel like. And again, I'm fine with that. Even if that is the case, me leaving Russia was still a good decision for me. You see, in my life, I do have some certain beliefs. Ideally, I'd like to live in a country that thinks that all people are equal before the law, and all people are equal regardless of their race, gender, sexuality, political views, etc., which is not the case in modern Russia, and it's not going to be the case going forwards. I also want to live in a country with relative political freedom, and also, look, even if Russia is doing perfect, at the end of the day, I don't think it is normal to have the exact same person to be the president and the ruler of a country for 25 years straight. I just don't think that is exactly normal, okay? Sorry for saying such outlandish things, guys, but I don't think that is okay. I also don't think invading your neighbors is okay. I don't think, giving no fucks about your civilian population and jailing people and making people suffer in poverty is very normal. I also don't think that killing your political opponents is very normal, right? None of these things are normal. They will never, ever in my eyes, become normal. So at the end of the day, even if my sort of, liberal opposition Russian, anti-Z side ends up being completely destroyed, loses, is no longer existent within Russia, that's fine because I don't change my ideals if they lose. That's kind of like changing your ideas because you saw a negative comment from somebody on the internet, How a lot of Russians essentially go, oh yeah, I was pro-Ukraine and, anti-war at the start of the war and everything, but then I saw how these Ukrainians speak on Twitter or whatever. I've seen a couple of, comments that are bad against Russians, so now I am Z and I support Putin. Like, grow a spine, become an adult, get some values, stand on your fucking business, 10 toes down. The only thing that people are concerned about is winning. People do not care about actual issues and actual people anymore. All people care about is dunking on the lips, on the SJWs, and winning. This is why you have working class people supporting Donald Trump and Elon Musk who are actively destroying all of their rights and their future because it gives them a feeling of belonging to a community of winners, right? I personally don't care about winning. I care about being on the side of humanity and normalcy, okay? And also want to live in a country where my children will have a decent future and not get murdered on the street by some veteran who just came back from the war after, being in prison. Or whatever, you know what I mean? That is what I do not want in my life, and I think I've secured that for myself more or less by leaving Russia. So, if you really put the question this simple way, do I regret, or do I think that leaving Russia was a mistake? And if my strategy was wrong, no, I do not think so. You guys can say cope, whatever, cope. I do not care because this is how I feel. That is gonna be pretty much it for this video, guys. If you guys did enjoy it, then please make sure to slap that motherfucking like button, subscribe, support me, become a YouTube member down in the description, or do a super thanks underneath this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.